تلك الرسل فضلنا بعضهم على بعض منهم من كلم الله ورفع بعضهم درجات وآتينا عيسى ابن مريم البينات وأيدناه بروح القدس. الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم انفعنا بالقرآن العظيم واجعله لنا إماما ونورا وهدى ورحمة يا أرحم الراحمين وبعد. We then move on to the third juz of the Quran, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, after ending the second juz with a discussion about the struggle between truth and falsehood, begins the third juz with the greatest verse of the Quran, Ayat al-Kursi, Allahu la ilaha illa huwa al-hayy al-qayyum. And as you recite the greatest verse in the Quran, the verse that begins with the divine name, that speaks about the nature of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a constant movement between affirmation and negation of the divine essence, we should have some serious reflection about Ayat al-Kursi. That verse which, when we sleep and we recite that verse, it acts as a protection. It protects the person, it protects the family, and it protects the home from any type of harm descending. After Ayat al-Kursi, you have a few verses that speak about proofs of the nature of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the existence of the Lord and the existence of the next world. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala moves on or returns back to a discussion about legal rulings, here particularly focusing on financial matters. So you have a detailed discussion about sadaqah, about charity. And when you look at these verses about charity towards the end of Surah al-Baqrah, you see how much Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala encourages people to give in charity. The great act that increases a person's wealth. And then as you come towards the very end of Surah al-Baqarah, following the verses about sadaqah, about charity, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then moves on and warns about the evil nature of interest, of riba. One verse in particular, يَمْحَقُ اللَّهُ الرِّبَى وَيُرْبِ الصَّدَقَاتِ, where Allah subhanahu compares the two. He says, subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala removes any blessings from interest, riba, and He gives increase. He gives riba in sadaqah. He gives increase in charity. And the penultimate verses, or the final verses about the warning against interest, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings some of the most terrifying verses in the Quran, where He threatens war, or not just threatening war, he states that the person who deals with interest is waging war and declaring war against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger. As we come towards the end of Surah al-Baqarah, we have a verse of significance, verse 281 in Surah al-Baqarah, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَاتَّقُوا يَوْمًا تُرْجَعُونَ فِيهِ إِلَى اللَّهِ ثُمَّ تُوَفَّى كُلُّ نَفْسٍ مَا كَسَبَتْ وَهُمْ لَا يُظْلَمُونَ. And beware of a day when they will all be returned back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then each soul will be repaid for what it's done, and nobody will be wronged. The significance of that verse is that according to the majority of the ulama, of the people of knowledge, that's the final verse that was revealed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam just over a week before he sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away, which tells us that Surah al-Baqarah spanned the full 10 years of revelation in Medina. And it's worth noting the last verse. It's a warning that after everything that's revealed, Allah subhanahu is reminding us that in the end we'll all be returned back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's followed by the longest verse in the Quran, a verse about what's known as Ayat al-Mudayna, about lending money, borrowing money. And then you have the last three verses of Surah al-Baqarah, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, particularly the second last verse, where a statement of faith is made, you declare your faith, and the last verse where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us to pray to Him subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us for the wrong that we've done, for things that we've done in mistake, for anything that we've done forgetfully. And so as you end Surah al-Baqarah, which is a surah that's about Zahir al-Taqwa, about the outward practices of faith. You end by making a dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive you for the wrongs that you've done as you try to practice your faith. And that's perhaps the reason why it is recommended as a sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ to recite the last 2 verses of Surah al-Baqrah before going to sleep. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. إن الذين كفروا وماتوا وهم كفار فلن يقبل من أحدهم ملء الأرض ذهبا ولو افتدى به أولئك لهم عذاب أليم وما لهم من ناصرين.